We're not
That
honking.
vehicle right there is honking and impeding our investigations while we're trying to arrest a child sex offender.
How about you just
That's who you guys are protecting.
At what point does the left maybe examine themselves and go, okay, all right, maybe we're the bad guys on this one? I don't think they would. Remember when I told you this wasn't about anchor babies? Remember when I told you this wasn't about dreamers? That it wasn't about children through no fault of their own whose parents came here illegally? We can't deport violent felons who are illegal aliens in our prisons. These states, these municipalities forbid it. You're paying for 3 square meals a day and rec time and job training for child sex offender, illegal aliens in our prisons. Do you understand that? And then add context to that. These people out there who are disrupting churches, they don't care who ICE is going in to try and apprehend. In some cases, they may know and they don't care anyway. They just want to burn your city down. Here is these heroes, you know, the white hat guys as they view themselves, protecting child sex offenders.
Reporting. We're here to arrest a child sex offender.
Very clearly.
And you guys are out here honking.
Oh, we're not. Oh, no, we're press.
And clearly Hispanic.
We're not
That
honking.
vehicle right there is honking and impeding our investigations while we're trying to arrest a child sex offender.
How about you just
That's who you guys are protecting.
just hear that and go, oh, we're sorry.
Insane.
Please carry on.
They got nothing to say.
Jeez.
My warrant's not for you.
My warrant's not for you.
That's entitlement.
That's not a real warrant, sir. Think about that. Hey, stay out of my business. You want to see an officer's warrant for someone else? You know that you're not entitled to that, right?
Right.
And they don't, it's not like a 1970s cop show. They don't have like a folded piece of paper in an envelope.
Right.
Like a process server.
Ah, see? Unless you got a warrant, I got nothing to say, see? Copper?
The entitlement of these white chicks, man. What authority do you have over anybody?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Well, they think
The entitlement, I mean, the one who lost her life in Minneapolis didn't even have custody of 2 of her kids.
Right.
Yeah, you don't even have authority of your own house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, she was just a mom dropping off the kids. By the way, that's another thing, too, that we'll get to that, the comparison of Charlie Kirk and Renee Good. But it turns out that in this instance, ICE was just assisting local law enforcement to arrest, an escaped convict.
Yeah, you got to put that.
Yeah. By the way, go to Freedom News TV and watch the full clip.
Yes, watch the full clip. They have a lot more content on that. Please do. We always put a watermark up there and try and give credit to anyone who does this investigative journalism, because we appreciate when people obviously give our folks credit. At what point does the left maybe examine themselves and go, okay, all right, maybe we're the bad guys on this one? I don't think they would. I don't think they would, because George Floyd was a serial violent offender who robbed a woman at gunpoint with her child there in the house while he did it. It doesn't matter to these people anyway. I bet you if they watched the tape of this man molesting a child, they hate America. They hate what you stand for so much that they would still impede the officers. Also because many of them are being paid. They will. And you know what? That's not just baseless. Check the references here. When the left collectively get power, they protect pedophiles. You understand? And by the way, Epstein, everyone has proverbial blood on their hands because that was handled poorly, to be clear. But that includes both elites on the left and the right. But as a matter of political policy, again, looking at the tribes, left versus right, you can look at what the left does with power. In California, for example, they relaxed mandatory sex offender registration.
What?
Yeah, the requirements for pedophiles. In Canada, they dropped mandatory minimum sentencing for possession or accessing child sexual abuse material. They did so under the guise of artistic merit. In Vermont, they do not require sex offenders to notify neighbors and or employers, and they have no restrictions on where sex offenders can live.
What?
Yes.
Wow, are they allowed to work? They're allowed to live by a school and work at Chuck E. Cheese?
Well, they don't have to notify Chuck E. Cheese.
No, they don't. Wow.
By the way, Chuck E. Cheese, they have a great deal on a loft right above the bouncy house.
Wow, Vermont.
Think about that.
That's wild.
That's why I say they wouldn't care anyway, because when they've known, they still didn't care, and they've always protected. The left, make no mistake, they will harbor evil. It's at a certain point, it's not happenstance, and that's where you look. Do you agree that there's some component of spiritual warfare going on? I do. Certainly when they routinely and almost uniformly protect sex offenders. These are the same people who said Me Too. Think about that. They want to destroy adult, sexual, in many cases, consensual sexual relationships between one male and one female. They actually want to reformat it, recreate it in their own image that consent for sex, I should say, can be retroactively retracted so that you can be a rapist, but we don't want child molesters to have to register. That might be stigmatizing. Also in California, they don't want you to have to notify your partner or disclose that you have HIV because that might be stigmatizing. But my God, if you have a bad date, yeah, we think we're gonna burn your life down with Me Too. They've never cared about this. You can also understand that by seeing them defending these Islamic nations where rape is actually codified into law. Here is what the left want. They just want to create chaos. And chaos is probably the most used tool of Satan himself. It's all over the Bible. Here is what they will do the moment they take power.
Because the blue tsunami means that Congress is going to haul Elon Musk, big balls, and a bunch of other people's ass in front and say, what crimes did you commit? And it's going to get really serious. And the same with Trump, because I believe, and this is just my opinion, that Trump and all of the bottom-feeding morons surrounding him and Elon Musk and all the bottom-feeding Klingeroners that surround him, I think they commit crimes every day. And I think to reconcile all of this is going to take hardcore, not integrity Democrats. Fuck you, Democrats. Fuck you for fucking over our country. We are serious about this. We are prosecuting. We're going to uncover every document, every phone call, everything you did. We will be relentless about it.
No man or woman should be above the law in this country. And Donald Trump sure as shit should not be above the law in this country. And I think the Democrats have to talk about it in these terms that, listen, if we get back in there, and I'm not saying I'm part of the Democratic Party, but I'm saying this is the way. Of course, no, you're not. Sure. They should say when they're back in there, if you guys are going to cling to this idea that Donald Trump is unaccountable, it's just not going to work, and that means adding seats to the Supreme Court so that that immunity decision can be overturned, and so Donald Trump can be held accountable for his crimes.
Well, anybody can be held accountable for any crime you say they committed.
Right.
If you just put your own judges in there.
Well, that's true. Yeah, you just need to have enough judges to make sure that they interpret things the way you want them interpreted.
Yeah, let's Brazil America.
Yeah. Yeah, but of course, Donald Trump was not only accountable for the crimes that you said, he was also held accountable for crimes that he never committed. Never. He was involved with nuts in no way. Not whatsoever. Matter of fact, to a degree that has never been seen in our lifetime. So I guess you're saying you're going to do it even more. Folks, you do not despise these people enough. And by the way, I want to make one thing clear, too, because I know I've said this is evil. The ideology is absolutely evil. So isn't that the same as people saying Charlie Kirk is a Nazi? You know what? My primary gripe was not just them saying Charlie Kirk is a Nazi. They'll say that about anyone. I think it's irresponsible, obviously. But the reason it's more dangerous when the left does it is because they act violently far more consistently, and they justify the unjustifiable. Remember when I said after Charlie Kirk, I said ruthless, merciless, lawful violence. And by that, I mean defending you and your own. Are you starting to get the picture as to why that's the case? Are you starting to see what's going on in Minnesota? Are you starting to see what's going on in those churches? Can you point me to any examples of those on the right doing that? And certainly even in the middle of this conflict right now, the one where we showed you a guy, bing, knocking out about 2 or 3 people, 2 or 3 Antifa people, the anti-ICE people, that guy had a bullhorn in his ear for minutes and tried to remove himself several times before he acted out. That's what I'm talking about. Ruthless, merciless, lawful, defensive violence. You guys don't need to let this happen. If the left wants to use these words to spur on a civil war, and they do, you definitely need to be prepared to defend yourself. And they compare Charlie Kirk. I heard this on one of those panel shows. They said, I thought it was terrible when people celebrated Charlie Kirk being assassinated. And I think it's just as bad when those on the right are callous with Renee Good. First off, there's a big difference between being callous and spitting on and desecrating vigils. Second, can you tell me the laws that Charlie Kirk was violating? I've pointed you to the felonies, multiple felonies, before hitting an officer with her car, Renee Good, that she was committing throughout the day and had been warned and asked to stop. Do you guys understand the difference between someone obstructing, impeding officers, refusing lawful orders, resisting arrest, then hitting an officer with a vehicle, and in a judgment call being shot? Do you understand the difference between that and someone with a permit, by invite, and a scheduled date, sitting down and allowing anyone to discuss issues who will do so peacefully? This is where we are. The pendulum is swinging back because for so long we were raised with what is normal. And I kind of understand it, right? You don't want kids to be bullied because they're a computer nerd, because they might be the next Steve Jobs. They might be the next Elon Musk, right? We don't want people to be bullied. People can be different. And we understand that there's value there. But then we included the left when they say, what is normal? They expanded that to include degeneracy that is of no value. What is normal? Trans, same-sex marriage, identifying as a cat. What is normal? Gender-bending LGBTQ. Let's allow men and women's sports. And I think now we're going, oh, you know what? It actually is a good thing to start off with the framework of normal. We kind of always knew what it was, and we were tricked into saying, yeah, I guess what is normal? We're all different, but you know it now. It's within the bounds of decency. It's within the bounds of humanity. These people are not acting like humans bound by standard decency that you are. Imagine if you went on with your day and at no point did you care about basic traffic laws, theft laws, arson laws, child protection laws, crossing the street laws. I guess it would fall under traffic. None of it. You didn't care about any. That's how these people live. And you're afraid to defend yourself? That's actually a foundational constitutional right. Your right, your God-given right to self-preservation. I repeat myself. If you are in Minneapolis and you are a law-obeying citizen and you are having to deal with this, you find yourself in a scenario where you could be assaulted, you are being accosted, lawful, ruthless, defensive violence. These people need to be afraid to pop their head up if they're going to break the law, because then you lose your rights. And none of that is fair. Oh, you're still here watching this on YouTube? There's no more. It's over. Just like YouTube. YouTube is over. It's not a thing anymore. How many Seth Meyers clips do you need? Head on over to Rumble. Follow me there. Live on weekdays at 11 a.m. Eastern, where we can actually speak freely and don't have to self-censor. YouTube it's really not a thing. Like, you ever seen one of those towns that maybe was like a mining town, or maybe they made some kind of alloy? You say, hey, I wonder what they did in this town. It takes a while to find a person who can tell you what they did in that town, and even then you don't fully understand it. That's YouTube. YouTube is that town. So go to Rumble.